Did you, QR?
What are the session?
Oh, really? That QR code.
11:45. So we start with, we got to back. So we start. Okay, thank you.
I think it's still in my system.
That was your meeting.
Because you was wondering. No, because.
Yes, all of them, but the hot one I didn't get. My phone didn't like that one.
Nah, tomorrow. Singing.
How you doing? No. I'm just trying to.
No, it's just for that. It's just. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. So my name is Justin, and we're going to be talking about social media. We're going to talk about marketing. But yeah, so I'll tell you a little story first. So my dad, great dad, love him. He traumatized me as a child, though. So he is a country boy from Arkansas, right? I was born in Richmond, Virginia. He was born in Forest City, Arkansas. And one of the things that they did, because they didn't have, internet or TV or stuff back then. So one of the things that they did to pass the time was fishing. So he loved to fish. So he decided that he wanted to pass along his pastime to me. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll go fishing. Sounds fun, right? And so we get to, I want to say it was a lake the first time. It might have been a river, but let's go with the lake.
Okay.
Right? We go to the lake and we have the hooks. And then he says, okay, put your bait on the hook. And I was like, excuse me? And he was like, yeah, dig in the dirt and get your worm and put it on the hook. And I was like, what are you talking about? And so I learned that day that I had to put on my own bait on the hook for something to come. If I didn't put the bait on the hook, nothing was gonna come. I also learned that day that there were different types of bait. So I learned that different fish are attracted to different things. So we got worms, they got night crawlers, which are just bugs. I don't know, they just want to give it a fancy name. And they also have like little fish, the little minnows, right? So I learned there that certain fish, like the catfish in the lake, will come for the small fish. I was getting trout with the worms. I want a catfish, because that's what I like. So I was like, Dad, let me use the small fish, right? So I'm saying all this to say is that I learned quickly at that point that bait is what attracts people. And so that's what we're gonna be talking about today in our content. Your content is your bait. And if you don't have good bait, it's not gonna attract anything. Because my dad, like I said, he traumatized me a little bit. And the first time, he just let me just put the hook in the water, and I caught nothing. And so I was like, this isn't fun. And after a while, my mom came by and said, Tony, tell that boy to put some bait on that hook. You got him out here just doing nothing, right? And that's really what we all end up doing with marketing. Sometimes we just throw stuff out there, but there's no real bait. And so if there's no real bait, you got no real result. So today, we're gonna talk about marketing, specifically social media, on how to, oh, I forgot to hit start the timer, and how to make sure that you have the right bait to attract the right audience, right? So are we fishing with worms? Are you fishing with night crawlers? Are we fishing with little minnows? Or are you just fishing with a plain hook, right? So by show of hands, who has a business in here? Business owner. I just want to kind of see what the room is, okay? We got businesses. Who are pastors? Whether you're senior pastors, associate pastors, elders, whatever the case. You're not an elder?
Oh,
Like, tell me so. And who would be in the parachurch ministry category, so your nonprofits or the other type of auxiliary ministry as well, okay? So we got a little bit of everybody here. So we're gonna focus on churches and businesses, but if there are things that are more specific to whatever you have, just ask. Because I've worked with plenty of things. So that'll lead to me a little bit, that's me, old picture. I started the JR Consulting in 2017. The desire to start it was really because I saw a problem for creatives and entrepreneurs that just like were stuck at times, and they just needed things. They needed somebody to be able to push them along to do whatever it is. So that was where I came from. One of my childhood best friends, he's a great musician. He wanted to do a concert, and I just told him, let's do it. And he was like, I don't understand, how do we just do it? And I was like, no, we just have to do this. We gotta do, we gotta get plates, we gotta get a set list, we gotta get some opening acts, we gotta do whatever. So I learned quickly that I'm a person who's able to help situations, help visions, help goals come. And as I continued to do that throughout the time, I realized every event that I was putting on, every program that I was doing, every project that I was doing would only be as successful as the marketing that was attached to it. So I learned marketing and social media as a result of being an event producer, an event coordinator, a project manager, things of that nature. Because again, you can have the best thing in the world, but if nobody knows about it, it does not matter, right? So that's what I learned in 2017. Then the pandemic hit, I think like everybody else, kind of decided to change some stuff up, right? Had nothing but time to think. So I rebranded to the JR Group, which is what I am now today. So we'll talk about rebranding, we'll talk about a whole lot of things today. But over the course of my tenure, I've had the amazing opportunity to do some really cool stuff. So I've been on international spoken word tours twice. During the pandemic, I did it virtually, and I was involved with the marketing at that point. I just finished a solo tour for the spoken word artist last night that was here. I took her on tour in the spring of this year, and that was a sold out tour in every city. It was her first solo tour, and she had been associated with the bigger tour that we did, so she already had a platform, but we had to really brand it so that people would come to see just her, because people were used to seeing her in relation to the rest of the group. And then, as of recently, I started doing my own events. So like I said, with doing events, you learn that you can have a great event. People tell me my ideas are great, but if nobody knows about it, people don't necessarily come, right? So that is related to your churches, your businesses, your auxiliary ministries, whatever it is. You can have the best idea on the planet. It can be a calling straight from God, but people have to hear about it. So that's what we're gonna talk about today with social media. So that's me. That's all I do. I always talk about that. So we'll start here with what is social media. I'm a big person that thinks that we should be speaking from the same sheet of music, right? So we're talking about things, I want to make sure that we're talking about the same thing. So social media. It is a means of interactions among people in which they create, share, or exchange information. The biggest thing about social media is the social part, right? So we'll get into this a lot later, but I think it's important to start now. The biggest difference between social media and then the traditional media that we know about, newspapers, the anchors, the news, Fox, CNN, MSNBC, whatever the case is the social part. The regular news, the regular media is informing. They're just talking to you. It's not a conversation. It's not really, you don't really have a chance to interact. Now they've changed it a little bit, of course, because we have the ability to comment on things, and these news outlets are on social media. But if you think about traditional media, such as a newspaper, you get the newspaper, you read it. That's it. You can talk about it with your friends, but you're not talking about it with the person who wrote the newspaper, right? So the biggest thing with social media, like if you get no other takeaway, is the social part. You need to be interacting with people. You need to be engaging with people. Your content needs to be engaging, that makes somebody receive your content, want to talk back to you about it, want to respond to whatever your call to action is, and even share it. So we'll get to that. So, social media, what all does it do? It comes up with 6 things. It informs, it persuades, it entertains, it connects, it introduces, and it reconnects. So with informing, social media has started to be just like the regular media, so it starts to tell you your daily news. People are telling you what's going on in the world. You found out on social media that Joe Biden dropped out, Kamala Harris is now, like, you're finding these things out through social media, right? It persuades. Persuading is really important for business owners and churches as well. You want to persuade people that Jesus is Lord and Savior. We know that this is the truth, right? We know that He's the way, truth, and the life. But the people in the world don't know that. John chapter 1 says that in the beginning was the Word was God, the Word was with God. And it jumps down and says that He came into the world, that He was created to be the light, but they did not know Him. So the man who created the world, who was in the beginning, He came to the world, and people did not know Him. So it's our job, our task, to help persuade people. So that's from the church side. From the business side, you want to persuade people to buy stuff, right? You want to persuade people to buy your shirts, your product, your course, your service, whatever it is. You want to persuade people. If you are a para-ministry, you want to persuade people to come alongside of you. So if you're doing a nonprofit, if you're doing a fundraiser or a coat drive or a food drive, you want to persuade people that they should come alongside of you and actually participate, right? The next thing it does is entertain. We love the entertainment, right? That's where you get your funny videos. My mom watches this cat video all the time on Facebook. Willow the cat. I don't know if anybody. Yeah. Y'all have been entertained by Willow, right? In my opinion, there is no value to those videos whatsoever. But it does entertain. It does give you a break from reality too. Because as we know, these days are really bad. There are turbulent times. I've discussed the session beforehand, turbulent times. The entertainment factor helps to break up the monotony of your day, and it helps to provide some joy as well. Because you never know, and I'm putting you now in the position of the content creator, you never know what the person on the other side of the screen is actually going through. So if you decide that all you want to do is inform and persuade, but you never give them a reason to laugh, you never give them a reason to smile, you don't know what they're going through, right? Okay, then it connects. Social media has made the world a lot smaller. I've had the opportunity to connect with people that are in other countries now. I have the opportunity to keep up with what they're doing. I have an acquaintance in Kenya, and sorry, it's inside joke between me and my friend. We always say that the word friend, we need a better word for friends. Like, the English language fails us there. That's a sidebar. That's another thing. I have an acquaintance in Kenya, and we keep up with each other, but the way we do it, we don't necessarily talk. He comments on my photos, I comment on his, like things like that nature, right? Introduces, because of the algorithm, which is a word we'll get to, it's a cuss word for a lot of people, something that people don't like. Because of the algorithm, you can find new people, right? There's a social media influencer that I had at my first creators conference. Her name is Kim Jenkins. I found her through social media. I didn't come across her, right? She doesn't live here. At the time, she lived in Florida. So there's no reason for me to have met her. I live in Stafford, Virginia, right? So social media has the ability to introduce you to new people, new things, new concepts, whatever it is. We'll get to, like I said, we'll get to it, but like TikTok is a huge discovery algorithm. It's come to the point where when we plan trips, I I have some of my friends that go on TikTok to find stuff. They're like, oh, we're going to Hawaii, so like, let me go to TikTok, things to do. I'm like, really? Not Google, but anyway. And then it reconnects. I think all of us have found a friend that we haven't talked to in forever on social media, right? And so that's just another beautiful thing about it. Yeah. And also, if you guys have any questions, anything, feel free to ask. That goes for the online Zoom audience as well. So now let's get into the how of social media. How does it happen? Well, we've got 3 different types of content, if you will. There's short-term content. That's what we're used to seeing the majority of time. Those are your reels, those are your TikToks, those are the short videos, typically vertical, the things that take up the entire screen of your phone. You have long-term video content. That's more like your podcasts, your YouTube videos, your music videos, your songs, when people go live, your sermons for Sunday morning, and then posts in general. That's like your written text, your infographics, your flyers, your carousels, that type of thing. This is all information from 2024. So in 2023, say last year, so 2023, 90% of marketers said they would increase their short form video. What does this mean for you all? This means brevity is key. So it is time out for the super long messages, because as we know, people's attention spans are a lot shorter now. Now, I'm going to go ahead and address the elephant in the room. A lot of pastors, a lot of elders, a lot of faith-based people, a lot of business people as well, say, I have something to say, and I want them to hear it. I believe it. However, short is the way to do it. You've got, unfortunately, with social media, you have got to learn to truncate your ideas. You have got to learn to bring them down to a very concise format. Otherwise, it will get lost in the sauce, because the average person spends, the average 35-year-old plus will spend 4 seconds on a post. The average under 35-year-old will spend 1.3 seconds on a post. So if you cannot grab them in that 1.3 seconds, you've lost somebody. So again, elephant in the room, it's time out for all the praise the Lord saints. I'm so happy to see you. Bless the Lord. How are you doing? It's so good to see sister so-and-so from whatever. That's great. Pre-pandemic. And now get straight to the point. And it is unfortunate, because business leaders, if you're a leader, you have something to say. Like, I think that's safe to say, that you have a platform, you have a message that you want to deliver. But if you're using social media, you've got to get to it faster. Save the pleasantries for your Sunday morning. Save it when you have a live audience in front of you. So one of the biggest things that we'll talk about too is differentiating your live audience content versus your virtual content. And there's a big difference. I think one of the ways that we are failing and not soaring is thinking that all of our content can be the same. And it cannot at this point. Because the second, and I love all these pastors, but the second someone starts going, we had a high time of the Lord 2 weeks ago, I don't really care about 2 weeks ago. What's happening today? And it's just a fact. So we just have to move faster. So that also this year meant that 73% of consumers prefer short form videos. Again, people want quick, people want concise, people want to know what you know in about 30 seconds or less. And you can get to longer content if you're a really good storyteller. But the thing about it is, people often think they're good storytellers. They're not as good as they think. And that's not shade, it's not a slight on people, but a lot of times you don't know, because especially as pastors, as elders, as businesses, especially pre-pandemic, we're so used to having a captive live audience. The same metrics and the same things do not apply for your virtual audience, unless your virtual audience is the same as your live audience. But then, I won't say there's no point, but they were already in your service, so why are you telling them again? The goal of social media is to reach new people. The goal of social media is for people to share it with somebody else. So if you're just basically recapping what happened in your service that somebody was there, not that it's not potent, but it's not the best thing to do. Like, we have to find different ways, so we're gonna get through that as well. 57% of Generation Z prefers short videos. Those are the ones that I'm talking about, the 1.2 seconds. And then the short form videos are considered 2.5 times more engaging than long form videos. So again, if we have found the key is short and sweet. Marketing in general. And this is something I think is important, because a lot of times, especially if you are the business leader or you are the pastor, you're the leader or whatever, a lot of times you're not the one actually doing the marketing. You have hopefully a team, a social media team, a marketing team, a communications team, whatever the case might be. But you need to learn to speak the same language of the people that you're employing, partnering with, working with, right? So marketing, that's kind of like everything that we do. That's the physical marketing, that's the signs, that's like all the stuff that you think about. So general content, things of that nature. Advertising is what a lot of people really want to do, and that's calling your attention to something specifically. So you advertise for the Eagles Rock Summit, you advertise for an event, you advertise for a product, excuse me, you advertise for something. You market about a general concept. We market about what is Eagles Rock. Eagles Rock is this communion of Christian churches. We're advertising for the annual summit. Does that make sense? Okay. So again, this is more so helpful for technical terms, because when you're talking to your teams, make sure again that you're speaking the same languages and that you're communicating what you think you're communicating when you're asking the things, right? And then finally, innovation. All this is about innovation. That is the process of bringing new ideas, methods, and products and solutions to life. So one of the things that we always talk about, I think they said in the last session, if you're not changing, then you're not growing. And we need to be able to change with the times. There's a statistic and a study out there. It was done in 2022, so I'd be interested to see what the information is now. But it says that the church is 13 years behind the world in terms of innovation, in terms of whatever the case is. And we can think about that tangibly, because I know it's a controversial thing at times, but when you think about even how our sanctuaries are built. So I know a lot of churches now are getting the LED screens and the lights and things of that nature. Most secular venues and arenas have had that since 2000 or the early 2000s. But a lot of times we are just now getting into it. Now we can always debate whether it's pertinent to be there and all that. That's a different subject altogether. But in general, churches are 13 years, and this was in 2022, so I don't know if it's still 13, I don't know if it's more, I don't know if it's less. But they are 13 years behind their secular counterparts. So when you think about that, that's also in social media. The world has been using social media for a lot longer and a lot better and differently than the church has done, right? So we want to catch up, and not just catch up, we want to surpass, because we do have the best message out there. Like, people need to hear Jesus. People need to hear that he is a savior, that someone came and died for them, and he loved them enough to rise for them, and he's currently interceding for the Father. This is a beautiful message. I don't have to tell y'all know it, but we have to tell the other people, right? So I think that's the next thing I have to say. So just moving on, but that means we need good marketing. So I'm an engineer by trade, so I always think about what the problem is and how we can solve it, and I get to the crux of it. So with marketing, it needs three things. You need a strong concept, you need a relatable message, and you need the ability to cut through the noise. Now we're going to talk about each one of these things. Let's say a strong concept, relatable message, and the ability to cut through the noise. All right, let's work. So, strong concept. How would you describe a strong concept? A strong concept is something that you cannot refute. Whether you are right or wrong, it is a concept that you are so unshaken and unmovable about that it doesn't matter, right? So for Nike, for example, their strong concept is just do it. It's about innovation, it's about fitness. They sell you a lifestyle product, right? Michael Kors, luxury. Their concepts are these Tesla, eco-friendly, innovation. These are the concepts that these organizations are selling you. What is Eagles Rock selling? What is Relevant Church selling? What is the Life Church selling? What is your social media video selling? What is your concept that I should buy into? Ultimately, we're trying to get people to buy into something. So, like I said, I want it to be interactive. I want us to all work together. Who has something that we want to try this out? Like, if you want to say, I have this business, my strong concept is X. And if you have a business or a church, we all should know these things. So that's why this is a good way to practice. So, I'll wait.
Coaching package to
Okay.
help people write books.
Okay, so that's your concept. So you're that coaching that cares or married members?
Coaching that cares.
So coaching that cares, the concept of coaching that cares is to help people to write their books, correct? Okay, anybody else? Cool.
There's
Oh, sorry. No. And you can
I-
grab the mic too, because they want to be able to hear you online.
Just raise your right hand.
A strong biblical foundation for young kids.
Okay.
A way we can sell that concept. Because right now, I think that the messages, the multiple messages are part of the marketing, but we need to increase marketing to get a stronger biblical foundation.
Okay, let's come back to you, because at the end we're gonna workshop some ideas, so
Okay.
we'll come back to that one. So, in this concept, it needs to be able to meet a need too. No matter what it is, people need to know that whatever your idea, whatever your concept, whatever your platform is, it actually meets a need that they have. Otherwise, they will look over it. If I'm not trying to write a book, I probably won't go to Mr. Rel's thing, right? Because why do I need you to coach me to do something I don't want you to, I don't wanna do, right? So what, the biggest thing, and I want you to think about this, or your takeaway, whatever it is that you're doing, what need am I accomplishing? What problem am I solving? That's what you need to think about in everything. Then the next one, it needs to be relatable. This one can be, it seems really, really easy, right? But this is actually one of the hardest ones. Why should somebody care about what I have to say? Why do I need this? How can I show you that what you need, my way of providing that need is what you need? Because, I'm just gonna pick on Miss Sorella. She's not the only coach out there that can help people write books, right? But why does Miss Sorella's coaching platform help me over, maybe let's say Lady Rachel, right? Let's say that's what she's doing. Why should I pick Miss Sorella versus Lady Rachel? Why should you, right? So you have to think about, what is the relatability factor? Who is your target audience? That's typically where this comes in. This is where you get to nail down. Now I know, again, there are a lot of pastors I've talked to will say that Paul said, I became all things, right? But then the next clause says that I may attract some, right? So, also biblical literacy, let's read those scriptures, but that's another thing. Like I said, another session. But when it comes down to it, what Paul, like when Paul was talking about that, he was saying like he learned to be like this person so he could attract this person. He learned to be like this person so he could attract this person. That is awesome. His target audience was the church at wide. And that was a lot different back then, because at that point the goal was to spread the message to everyone, which is the same message. But now there's a lot more of us, so we can niche down a little bit, right? We're not leaving people out, but there is something that God has given each one of us that attracts certain people, right? There are people who are attracted to my gift. I found that out. I've been putting events on for the past couple of years, and I'm starting to build an audience. But I'm learning that in that audience, the majority of people that are not my family that just supported me are kind of similar. So there's something about you that will attract people. So what is your target audience? And when you say, I want to attract everybody, you end up getting almost nobody. So who is it? So for me, the Creators Well, that is my platform that God gave me in like 2020, I think, 2019, something along those lines. But it is a platform for Christian entrepreneurs and creatives to realize their God-given purpose by revitalizing, refreshing, and renewing them to go out and lead that God-given purpose. So my target audience is creatives. My target audience are entrepreneurs. And even in that, I say that out loud, but I niche down, it really is the creatives. Like if you look at my audience, it's all a bunch of artists, musicians, graphic designers, singers, whatever the case is, right? And this is something that was coming to me this morning, you could be mad about the target audience that God's given you, or you could work with them. And I think that's also something that we have to think about with social media. A lot of us want to be the top influencer. We want to have a mega church. We want to have the most people. We want to do the biggest food drive that the nation has ever seen. Maybe God has called you to 10 people. You need to get those best 10 people and find those 10 people and bring them to you, right? So, and it doesn't have to be explained. For your target audience, your message doesn't have to be explained more than twice. The first time, they just might not hear you. They might not be paying attention. It doesn't mean you don't tell them over and over again, right? Marketing is telling the same thing many times. But for someone who is meant for your target audience, you don't really have to convince them more than twice. really it's about 2 or 3 times, but it looks better to say twice, right? So that's the case. All right, we good? Tracking so far? Any questions? Any thoughts? All right, cool. And then finally, this is where, while the second point, being relatable, is the hardest for us to grasp, this is the hardest for us to do, is to cut through the noise. The beautiful thing about social media is that it is accessible to everybody. Anybody can create a Facebook page, anybody can create an Instagram page, anybody can post content. The bad thing about social media is that it is accessible to everybody. Anybody can create a Facebook, anybody can post something, anybody can get that. So there are millions and millions and millions of people on social media every single day posting content. You are competing, I use that word loosely, you are competing for the attention of your target audience in the midst of the noise. What is the noise? The noise is the news feed. So if you get on Facebook, if you get on TikTok, if you get on Instagram, that is just a feed that you can just scroll endlessly, right? On that feed, you want your content to show up. You want your content when it does show up, because we don't really want to get into all the algorithm stuff today for real, because that's a whole 12-day course. When it shows up, you want people to stop at your thing. Now, I know me personally, I get on social media towards the end of the day, or like during my lunch break. That's right, when I try to limit myself. At night, I will keep scrolling. There are a lot of posts that I will just look at and scroll instantly, but it has to catch me, and that's what we want people to do. You want your stuff to catch people. You want your stuff to stop the scroll. That's what they always call it, and things of that nature. So, and you also want content that shakes up your normal, right? If you are somebody who's consistently posting, like a church, like a business, those are typically the people who are trying to persuade, inform, entertain, right? Your content needs to look different. Same message, but look different, so that people will say, Pastor Patrick posted another thing. It caught my attention this time. Versus, Pastor Patrick is in that, and he doesn't do this, that's why I feel like it's easy to pick him. Pastor Patrick's in that same chair every time, looking at the phone, having a conversation. If your page, if you can look and everything looks the same, people will have a harder time catching it because of our short attention span. So people need to see something different. So, for example, I'm not gonna teach anything that I haven't done myself, right? So I'm doing an event next Saturday, and I've been marketing it myself. I'm supposed to have an agency to do it, but things happen. So I was like, all right, cool, I'll do the marketing myself, because I know for me personally, I have troubles marketing myself. It's easier to do for other people, right? We'll keep going. So with that, what I've learned is that the posts that are getting the most traction are the things that look the weirdest in a way. So I went axe throwing last weekend with one of my friends for their bachelor party. I turned that into a post. A lot of that post got the most views in a while because it was something completely different than my normal, right? So those are the videos that you're seeing. Like our church did this a couple weeks ago, the bull video, where like there's a bull running.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was good.
There's like trends happening right now where you do this very shocking action in the beginning, and it just turns into somebody just announcing like a Sunday service or a baptism or whatever. So like there's videos of people like falling off of a slide and they end up in the baptism pool when they jump to it, right? But those things are things that like catch your attention, because for the bull video you're like, what is this bull doing? Who is it running after? And then you're already hooked in, right? For me, when I was throwing the axe, people were like, what is he doing? Why is he throwing this axe, right? So again, when you think about cutting through the noise, what are things that can shake up your normal? And you want content that provides a reason to engage in the call to action. So every piece of content should have some sort of call to action, whether it's just subscribe to your YouTube, subscribe to your page, just keep following me, just stay up to date with whatever I'm doing, buy a ticket, whatever the case is. The call to action is great, it can be super clear, but if people don't want to actually engage with your call to action because they don't care about your content, your call to action doesn't matter. So really, again, your content is the bait. So we need that bait to be extremely strong and to pull it in so that I will continue to go further in your posts. So that I will like whatever it is, I will share whatever it is, I will buy whatever it is, I will consider whatever the case is, right? And so now when we talk about innovation, with all of this, innovation helps to stop the scroll. So this acronym came up with like a year ago, like, is it a good idea? So is it God ordained for your ministry? You can use business for your auxiliary, whatever it is that you can interchange that word. Is this idea gonna reach your target audience? It is easy for us to come up with ideas. I have ideas all the time. It's just something that I do. But does it make sense for me? Does it make sense for the audience that I have, right? Like, I could decide, one thing that I wanna do in life, I hope God gives me the ability to do it. I wanna do a festival here, because I feel like we don't have a lot of Christian festivals in this area, right? But does it make sense for me to throw a festival right now? No. Like, it just doesn't. But it's a cool idea, but is it God ordained? Maybe God will give me the ability to partner with someone later, maybe not, I don't know. But right now, it doesn't make sense for my business. Where's the money gonna come from? Where are the people gonna come from, right? So think about that, is it God ordained? That's also why, as Christian business leaders, as Christian leaders as we are, we have to be tapped into the Holy Spirit. Your marketing should not be done without the Holy Spirit. Should have been rule number one. Optimal for your ministry, your brand, your business. Again, with the festival idea, is it optimal for me to do that right now? I don't have a venue, I don't have a big space, it does not make sense. You can have a great marketing idea, you can have a great social media campaign. Like, for us, when we did the bull video, Tandela was the one who was sitting over here. She was the one who jumped into the chairs, right? And knocked the chairs over. If you have people who have back issues, is that a good idea for you to do? You know what I'm saying? Like, we think lighthearted of it, but when we think of these ideas, is it optimal? Again, if you say, I'm gonna do a podcast every single night, is that optimal for you? Do you have the time to do that? Do you have the ability to do it each time and do it well? The next O is on brand or out of the box for your ministry or brand. You want the ideas to be out of the box, but you want them to still fit in with your target and what you're doing. Because if you start doing what we call unhinged content, you just have a whole bunch of random stuff going on, people will start to lose the plot of what your business is or your brand is, right? Or your church. So if you're a church and you start putting out a whole bunch of stuff about, reaction videos, some music, or this and that, they're gonna say, are you an artist or are you a church, right? While you might be getting followers, while you might be getting engagement, does it make sense for your church, for your business, for your brand to do the thing? And then finally, doable. So the difference between doable and optimal is like, should I do this? Doable is, can I do this? So the realistic idea is like, whatever idea I'm coming up with, whatever campaign I wanna do. Let's say Easter is coming Sunday, and now I wanna do a whole campaign for Easter. I'm sure we've been through this, people have had that happen. Is it really possible to do it and do it well, right? So, is it doable? So keep that in mind for innovation. And then, so we're talking about your content, right? Because that's really the thing. Everything we're talking about is content. How do you innovate your content? You pick the best people, whether it's the pastor, whether it's the first lady, whoever it might be, that relates to your target audience. One of the biggest things we have to do with social media, especially if we are a brand or a business, is take our ego out of it. God may want to use somebody else's gift to shine, to help elevate what you're doing, right? Moses had Aaron. All these people, like, people have other people, right? You don't have to do everything. And to be honest, it's better for you not to do everything. Because if the pastor is on everything and every whatever, if someone else, let's say the first lady wants to pull the women out, but now the pastor didn't announce it, now the people aren't gonna necessarily come or respond. So it's good to showcase different voices and different faces. But you also need to find who those faces are. It may not be an elder. It may not be your CEO of your company. It may not be your chief operations officer. It may be someone who just comes to the church, but they bring visitors all the time, they're very personable, they have their own social media presence as well. Those are the people that you want to be your ambassadors for your company, your representatives. And when you have the content, collaborate with them on it. There's a feature on Instagram and Facebook Reels that allows you to post something on your page and you collaborate with the other person, so it also cross-posts it on their page. They didn't have to make the post, they didn't have to do anything. But now your post benefits from their engagement and their audience and their following, the people that share their stuff. So now if you've got someone, let's say you've got, just haven't picked on you yet, let's got Nate. Nate's young, Nate's probably got young friends, right? If we want to invite people to a young adult ministry event, probably makes sense to have a young adult say something about it, right? But you want it to be on the church's Facebook page because you need to drive them to the church. So for me, I am on the church's social media page, or social media team. So I would say, I'm gonna create the content, make the video, and I'm gonna now collaborate with Nate. He's gonna go on his Instagram. All he has to do is hit accept, that's it. And now, all of Nate's friends who probably were not following the life beforehand, or whatever your ministry, whatever your brand is, now they will see that content, and now they will engage with it, they will share it, and possibly end up following the life, depending on how you've done your situation. So again, collaboration is the key, but find the right people to collaborate with. And remember, in this newfangled world post-pandemic, they don't have to always be in the collar. They don't always have to know how to exegete the text perfectly. They can read a script, and you know that their life, that there's somebody who wants to follow God or currently following God, that should be enough for your marketing. Of course, you don't want people who on their page are cussing or have values that are opposite, right? Like we do have, again, use wisdom, use discernment. But a lot of times, organizations as a whole just feel like whoever the head of it is, whoever the CEO, whoever the leader, they have to be the one to do the messaging. That's not necessarily the case. Even when you think about Apple, like Tim Cook was the CEO for the longest, but every time they did an Apple product launch, they had so many heads of different departments, so many other people that were doing like content and explaining things, showing things. So think about that with your churches. Think about what deacon is really personable, what person really loves to do videos, whatever the case is, right? And then don't be afraid of remixing and reusing content. There's this myth that once you post it once, you never post it again. The reality is, because we talked about the millions of people on social media, depending on the size of your account and the engagement of your account, only 1 to 5% of your followers have seen your content. So if you had something that went really, really well, right? You did a video, you did a post, whatever it is, it's probably worthwhile posting it again the next week, because more than likely, people did not see it, right? And I think go ahead.
When we were in the other class, I think Apostle Champion was saying that he had to make contact 7 times when he was talking about grants. Is there a percentage or some type of amount that might be equivalent to social media and contacting people?
Yeah, so right now on Facebook, you have to have, we call them interactions. You have to have 7 to 10 interactions with someone for it to stick. On Instagram, it's 13. On TikTok, it's 24. Because it just kind of, the different platforms are different. YouTube, I believe it's 7 to 10. I think YouTube and Facebook are either the same, or YouTube might be like a little bit, but let's just say 7 to 10, we gave a range.
Thank you.
So again, remix, reuse your content, because people aren't seeing it, people have to see it over. That's the other thing. I think churches have been guilty of this a lot specifically, and businesses too. You got a new product, if you've got an event coming up, you cannot post a flyer and just walk away from it. That doesn't work anymore, because again, people are not seeing the content, and that content may not have stopped people in their tracks. So if you've got, what do we have coming up soon? Praise in the Park, I think that's the next thing that comes up. Like, we have to, whatever your church is doing in the fall, it's a perfect time now to start saying like, okay, you've got this event that's happening, and you tell them about in the newsletter, like, and Ms. Georgette is really good at this, so it's gonna be in the newsletter for people to see. It's gonna come out on Church Center as a notification. Our social media team is gonna push the same thing over and over again. You may feel like it's overkill when you get tired of hearing about it. That's probably when they've heard it for the first time.
That's right.
One of the things, I'll pick on Ms. Georgette because she's right here. You're just the next one. One of the things I first learned from Ms. Georgette several years ago, when I first started helping out with things, one of the things she said in the meeting was like, we need to blast people several times. And I remember the person in the meeting saying, why? Like, we're spamming them. And one of the things she said to them, and it's one of the things that stuck with me, it said, you know about it because you planned the event. You know about it because you thought about it for forever. You know about it because God gave you the vision. The other people don't know. And when she said that, I want to say it was like 2010-ish, like it's even more important, more relevant now, because you have even more content. Back in 2010 with social media, it wasn't as crowded. Now it's super crowded.
Is it ever too much to have too much?
It's never too much if you have good content. if your content is, and we'll talk about that, but that's a good segue to it. Your content, again, we talked about innovative content. So if your content is following good words like good lighting, good audio, it's clear, you have a clear message, you can never show that too much. You've got a church, again, maybe controversial, but you got Transformation Church, very growing church, huge social media platform. They post stuff all the time, and you don't really hear people complaining about it. Why? Their stuff is well produced, their stuff is really polished, people understand what's going on. Like when they put their album out, cause I'm kind of a nerd, so I would go look at people's pages and just see like how many times someone's posted about it. Mike Todd posted about the album, the single, not even the album. He posted about it 30 times in 1 week. And each post had varying engagement on it. Some were in the upper thousands like normal, some were just a couple hundred. But I think that just goes to show that there's really no such thing as too much good content. Now if it's bad, that hurts your brand. So if you start doing stuff where it's really close to your face, or it's blurry, or it's pixelated, or it's dark, or whatever the case is, then stop. You need to recalibrate and get it together, right? But if your stuff is good, if you're following the guidelines that we'll get to, then there's no such thing as too much good content in that one. And then be authentic. This is what people nowadays, there was a trend between 2016 and 2019 that people wanted highly produced content. So they wanted you to be in front of a ring light and you wanted to have super crisp audio. These are not bad things, right? But it was almost like you were a news anchor every time. Nowadays, post-pandemic again, things have totally changed. People want to just see you. Some of the best videos that I have done are just me in my car just talking. And I think you start to see that a lot of people are like, oh wow, there's just someone just singing in the car. There's no piano, there's no auto-tune, there's no post-production. Like my musical ear hears, oh, they were flat here, they were sharp, but like, but it's going viral.
Right.
But people are loving it.
Right.
So there's obviously something to it, right? People are really buying into authenticity. So as a pastor, who are you as an authentic self? And the thing about it is, I know Bishop talked about this last night, that he's really excited about bringing in Generation Z and the younger generations. Those generations will eat you alive if you are not authentic. I'm just telling you now, if you want to get on there again and always be in your suit, if they never see what you look like, that's not on a Sunday morning, as a business owner, if they never see you without a fresh lineup, or your hair good, or your wig totally straight, like if they never see you as a person, they're not going to engage with you the way that you want them to engage with you. Because then they might look at you as just a public figure and not their pastor. They might look at you as a business and not somebody who can actually solve their problem. So they want to see, I include myself in this as the younger generation, because I'm just 30, but we want to see who you are, what you look like, what you sound like, right? So if you're an artist, because I work in the music industry as well, and so we're doing a promotion for Jonathan Marino's. He's having a birthday bash in DC, September 13th to 14th. If you want it, buy your tickets. We love it. It supports me too. But one of the things we told him is that you need to be authentic with your content. So a lot of times, Jonathan Marino's in general will post super polished stuff because that's who he is. But we've now noticed that as he's doing just more like regular stuff, just whatever, people are buying the tickets faster. So again, just be authentic in everything that you do. There we go. And with this, we are leading to what Mr. Relda was talking about content. Let it be natural, but let your natural be of a good standard, if that makes any sense. So instead of having to make sure to produce everything, that you gotta have good audio at all times, set up your life so that the content that's just naturally filmed can be easily put together, right? So a lot of times when I'm recording in the car, all you have to do is open up the sunroof, because the sun is the best light you'll ever get, right? I don't need to go in the house and get a ring light. I don't need to do all that. Just make it happen. This is also important for churches. Churches, we have to get to the point where our Sunday morning content, we don't have to edit it. Why? On Sundays, you already have a target audience of people who are sharing content. People are more likely to engage in Jesus on a Sunday than any other day of the week. Makes sense, because it's church. So you get out of church, you want to be able to post stuff pretty quickly, right? Photos from the service, whatever the case is. That means you want your lighting to be good. That means you want your settings for your phone and your cameras and all the things to be good. You want to be able to grab people in that moment instead of saying, hey, you know, Pastor Fred, can you come out on a Wednesday now and record your recap or whatever? Message could have been the best message on the planet, but I don't care anymore. And that's not, you know, no shade to anybody else, but that's just the fact, right? If you're doing a product launch for your t-shirts or whatever the case is, or your skincare line, whatever the case is, people want to see it right then and there. People want to see what you have going on. So if you've got your product launch and you're going to a pop-up shop, set up a tripod to show the process of you doing it. Set up the tripod to show with a time lapse, which is a super easy thing to do. It's not an app, it's built into iPhones at least. I don't know about yours, but it's built into your iPhone. You hit time lapse and you can literally show the process of whatever you built. So I do it all the time, and that's stuff that does really well for me. So if I'm printing shirts, if I'm working on a spreadsheet, if I'm setting up for a pop-up shop, if I'm doing a talk, excuse me, whatever the case is, I put on a time lapse and we're good to go. It's easy content, right? Let content be a natural part of you. Miss Sorrelda, we were just having a conversation in the hallway and she literally had someone say, record this. Very natural, very normal. Let content be a part of your life. The more you stress about content, the worse your content will be because you're overthinking it. So if you fumble every now and then on your words, it's okay. I know I haven't said everything right here, but we're gonna do it, right? We're just gonna let it happen. And we're gonna keep it going. And now the myths, the post has to be perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect post. There's a perfect time to post. The algorithm doesn't know what it wants to do, so do not care about that anymore. The algorithm in general, it changes all the time. Like your engagement is going to fluctuate because Facebook and Instagram and Meta don't know what they want to do. And that's just a fact because Adam, the CEO of Instagram, it's not just what I said, he said it himself. The Instagram changes all the time. I mean, the algorithm changes. So why would I depend and paralyze my progress based upon something that can't even be consistent?
Wow.
So,
Good.
yesterday was a perfect example. I was sitting here busy posting stuff for Eagles Rock, and I was like, crap, I didn't post for my own self. And I was like, oh, it's like 9 o'clock. And I was like, I'm just gonna post it anyway. It did very well. So I was like, you know, again, it doesn't like, the days of chronological algorithms are over. And there's one or two perfect ways to do things. Also, we're doing some tools to assist real quick. You got Canva, you got CapCut, you've got your phones. Your phones are the I won't say the best camera because that's not true, but your phones are perfectly fine. At this point, everyone pretty much has a smartphone, and I'm sure that it is good for you to record. Of course, there are better phones. Of course, there are better settings. But again, don't be paralyzed by the lack of equipment. Just get it out there. Because if people start to see that that's your standard, and people know that you've got an old-fashioned Droid from 2000 and that's all you use, then people will get used to your voice in that, right? Tripods, they're like $12. You see back there, I've got my phone on there. It's like literally just recording. It stabilizes it. I didn't have to have somebody hold it. And then ring lights. So before we do this, I wanted to do a practical example with you guys. So the next big thing that's happening that for businesses and churches, I would say, is Christmas, right? So as a group, let's brainstorm some things for Christmas. So like, what is our strong concept for Christmas?
The birth of Jesus.
The birth of Jesus. Anything else?
The story of the three wise men.
Story of the three wise men.
The manger.
You said what?
Gifts.
Gifts, okay. Pagan. Okay, strong message. What else we got?
Christmas is the reason for the season.
Christmas is the reason for the season. What else we got? What are some other strong messages?
Generosity.
Generosity.
Family.
Family, okay. So now whether you are a business or a church, most businesses do sales during Christmas, or churches have a Christmas program, whatever the case is. Let's think about relatability. Let's go with that one. Why should someone be a part of your Christmas program? Why should someone pay attention to what you're doing for Christmas? Some ideas. Like, how can we relate this to the average person? Like I said, this is one of the hardest ones. But
They
They
got
might give
family
them
members.
some ideas. Might give them some ideas on
Might
what
give
you
us
do.
a- okay, cool.
They got a participant in the program.
They have a participant, yeah, okay, that's a really good one. They're a participant in the program. What else we got?
Family event to
Family
go to.
event, yeah. Typically, if it's a church, it's a free event as well, which is also nice. So you're not in a time when you're spending a lot of money, you don't have to spend money for that, that's one thing that's good. Anything else? Any other ideas?
Appreciation,
Appreciation, okay,
volunteer appreciation.
okay. So now let's go, I'm silent? Okay. For the cutting through the noise, every church celebrates, most Christian churches, most Christian churches celebrate Christmas. How do we make our Christmas program something worthwhile to come to when we're thinking about the marketing? And I think that's applicable to everything, whether we're doing Easter, whether we're doing baptism, whether you're a business and you're doing a product launch. Like, I sell shirts. Why should you get this shirt that I have, right? So like, when we're thinking about our Christmas example, how do we cut through the noise? Because there's gonna be a lot of noise, we know that, Hallmark's putting out stuff, Lifetime's putting out stuff, all these churches. So what are some ideas that can cut through the noise for Christmas?
Start early.
Start early, that's a really good one. What else we got?
I was just thinking about being mindful of the connection that it would bring by, inviting people out. I don't know what that would be, but, I mean, we do it here at the Life, and even when we do our drama ministry, it always seems to have a spin to the traditional side of, the mic, I'm sorry.
I was trying to figure out what you were saying.
I'm sorry, no, because I don't know what I just said.
So she was saying, like putting a spin on the
I'm gonna
traditional.
take a mic runner.
The traditional marketing, something that's a little different. One thing that I would recommend for whether it's Christmas, Easter, whatever the case is, the one way to cut through the noise is to not be in church clothes and to also not wear the colors of the season. People will become inundated with red and green. People will become inundated with gold and silver. So if you are in a blue, a purple, a black, something like that, automatically you're different than what people are seeing on their timeline. So I did a Christmas campaign last year for a church, and I was like, we're not gonna do any red and green. I said, because everybody's gonna see that. And one of their campus listened to me, the other campus did not. The one that did had a lot more engagement on their posts. And a lot of the people said, I didn't even know this was a Christmas post, like the things on there. Now you've got people's attention to the point that's like, okay, I'm gonna look at this, because why in the month of December is he wearing a black t-shirt or a black hoodie? Like, why is he sad during Christmas? Like, people will start to think about that kind of stuff. So what other ideas we got for cutting through the noise? I like these already.
Post it, like, inviting us to, right, literally, right here. Inviting people to, perhaps make the little short soundbite videos and invite not just the pastors or the elders saying, come out to the service. People that are in the sanctuary that are just common or regular people that are church members can say, hey, come on out, my family's coming, why don't you come, or whatever. So.
One really easy way to cut through noise as well, I'm gonna get to you, I promise, is, oh, I just forgot. Go ahead, no, come back to me.
I was gonna say, get the kids involved.
Kids involved. Kids are easy, kids sell things very well. No one's gonna really skip a cute kid, right?
We have a comment online, a few comments. Gift bags, welcome cards, go into the community and remix Christmas songs.
Remix Christmas songs, gift bags, and what else?
Welcome cards.
Welcome cards. Okay, yeah, I like that, Music is always a great way to get people involved as well. And people love to do Christmas carols. So one of the best things about Christmas, they're like 12 songs. And most people know all these 12 songs, right? But we have redone these 12 songs a million times. You have one thing?
Unexplained captions, like, not Christmas as usual, or something that will grab the attention of, you see Christmas, you see the red, you see the green, you see all of that, but if you had, Rudolph being punched in his face or something, I
That's it.
See?
But it's gonna make me look like what's
That's
wrong with
right.
me?
Rudolph is like,
And that fits the unhinged, That's really good. So our time is up. What I will say to you is that, if you guys have questions, I'll be around all day long. There's a lot to always talk about in social media. An hour really isn't enough, but I do the best I can. So if you have questions, hit me up. Like I said, I'll be around all day. I do hope that we see different things with your Christmas marketing this year. We're start talking about it, right? And if you look at the slides, my contact information is at the end. But that's it. So yeah, thank you.
You should've did a live video in here with everybody.
We ran out of time. I have that plan.
Only 10 seconds. Told me I was got the video.
I'm trying to be obedient. What Jasmine said, you get invited back.
So you get invited back?
So you gonna be on praise and worship for the rest of the year, every day.
Right.